Turn it up! This is the Beat Sessions, and I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Admittedly, a little excited because we are talking about the Deftones. Their brand new release, Ohms, came out in September, and they just put out a companion album to celebrate the 20th anniversary of White Pony. That is called Black Stallion, so we're going to talk about both of those projects. It's been a hell of a year for the Sacramento, California quintet. The Black Stallion project is actually pretty cool. It can trace its roots all the way back to the development of White Pony, and Chino Moreno actually talks about the project in an interview and admits that the band approached DJ Shadow actually during the time of production and asked him if he wanted to remix all the tracks. Now sadly, that did not come to fruition, but we all know that White Pony went on to become one of the most groundbreaking, innovative, and influential records of the last 2 decades. Now fast forward 20 years later, here we are, and the band is finally able to put Black Stallion together and release the project. Now DJ Shadow doesn't do the whole thing. He does an awesome remix of Digital Bath, but you get lots of other guest appearances on there. Notable tracks include Passenger. Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park redoes that track. Classic with Maynard. I'm a huge Tool fan. Tool is arguably my favorite, so I'm always going to love anything that Maynard is on. And then Robert Smith appears on the track Teenager. Well, he doesn't actually sing. It's still Chino Moreno's vocals on there. But what is a really just nice, delicate track becomes even a little more delicate with the hand of Robert Smith. So it's not an album for everybody. Not every Deftones fan is going to dig the full-on electronic aspect of this record, but considering how much Chino Moreno has been influenced in the past and continues to be influenced by electronic music, it is a pretty cool little project, and I know that I enjoyed hearing the tracks realized in a different fashion by artists that Chino Moreno himself really appreciates. So that was pretty cool. The band itself is a pretty remarkable story. First record, Adrenaline, came out in 1995, Around the Fur. Followed that 2 years later, 1997. Both riff-heavy albums, and at a time when rock and roll really was in a major transition out of grunge. Bubblegum pop was blowing at the time, so you definitely see a lot of pop and electronic influences throughout rock and roll. Certainly nothing that I mind. It's all about my mood. Sometimes I want to listen to just really riff-heavy metal. Sometimes I want a little more. And White Pony not only gave us just a little more, it gave us a lot more. It really, upended the genre of rock and roll and really kind of put a new dynamic in place as far as balancing soaring melodies with melodic riffage. It's one of the things that I think Tool does really well, which is why I'm such a fan, but I like Deftones for the exact same reason. Now sadly, the band really, in my opinion, kind of fell off, and that's due to a lot. I know there was some internal strife after the release of their Eponymous album in 2003, and then sadly with the passing of founding member Chino Moreno, their bass player, in 2013, the band went through a pretty tough spot, and obviously the rhythm section, the bass being half of it, and Abe Cunningham on the drums being the other half of it, and I always saw him as being the bridge between those melodies and that riffage. I mean, what he does on the drums, not only just with the beats, but his technique in general. The drums are always just so crisp. His tone is amazing, and the rhythm section really just was always so strong on those early Deftones records that were produced by Terry Date. Actually, he did the first 4 records, and did Ohms as well. It's really a nice return to their form that they found on White Pony. And that's not to say that any of the material that they've released in the last 2 decades between those records is bad. It was all experimental. A lot of it was really good, but I think what they finally did with Ohms is just hone in on what they were trying to build on with White Pony, and it really feels amazing to see that come full circle 20 years later. And I'm hoping that Chino Moreno and crew are taking a victory lap, because the riffs that you get from Stephen Carpenter on this album are amazing. he was missing from Gore. I mean, I know he played on it, but I remember reading that he wasn't really involved with the songwriting process, wasn't really on board with the songs themselves, and you can definitely feel his energy in this album. Sergio Vega, who took over bass playing duties after Chi was unable to return, I feel like has really developed a solid chemistry with Abe Cunningham finally. I think that really adds to the chemistry and the dynamic of the record. And obviously you got Frank Delgado on the turntables doing his thing. But 10 great tracks running at 45 minutes. The lead track, Genesis, is super solid. Love the electronic 80s intro, going right into heavy riffs. Ceremony, the second track, also has a sick signature riff throughout the entire song. So I would definitely listen. I would listen to the first 3 tracks consecutively to really give this album a solid overview before you want to give it a yay or a nay. The third track, Urantia, I believe is how I'm pronouncing that, opens like a classic metal track, but then again just goes right into that heavy, ambient, good riff heavy rock that you're used to getting from the Deftones. You're also going to get a great song in This Link Is Dead, and the final track, the title track, Ohms, is a hell of a way to round out this album. I'm going to give it a vinyl please. I'm just going to have to throw this on the stack of records that I need to pick up when I go down to Zia here very shortly. But thanks for tuning in to this album review. Crush that like button for me. It helps me grow my channel. And please subscribe as well. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.